There's another major decision by the nation's highest court today as the session comes to a close.
That's right. The ruling has a potentially powerful impact on both the battle against climate change and Houston's biggest industry. Fox 26 political reporter Greg Groogan live here to tell us about it. Greg.
Yeah, John and Rashi, they tell us about a quarter of all greenhouse gas comes from the generation of electricity. Now, today, the Supreme Court basically shackled the ability of America's environmental police to set limits, ruling that's a job for Congress. In a 6-3 decision, the nation's highest court voted to rein in the regulatory powers of the Environmental Protection Agency when it comes to reducing carbon emissions in the production of electricity. Local and national environmental leaders called the ruling a dangerous setback in the battle against air contamination and climate change.
This is certainly a step in the direction of eroding the EPA's power, and we need the EPA to have the authority to protect our communities from contaminants in our environment. We're not getting that level of protection at the state here in Texas.
But the conservative majority on the high court ruled that Congress in this case had essentially abdicated its responsibility and delegated too much authority to the EPA. UH energy law expert Victor Flatt.
If they're not doing their jobs, what happens? Well, the court is now saying, we're not going to let the agencies fill in the gaps anymore.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton hailed the decision, saying the Supreme Court's ruling to curtail the EPA's war against fossil fuels is a major victory for our state and the livelihoods of hardworking Texans. Not so much, says Professor Flatt, pointing to a vast increase in cost-effective, low-emission natural gas and renewable generation already in place in the Lone Star State.
The bigger implication for Texas, more long-term, is a bigger story about the EPA and even other agencies' abilities to regulate as extensively as they see necessary to address a problem.
And it's the potential for even more dilution of authority, which worries those advocating for cleaner air and water.
This is a setback for the environmental community, but we've faced them before and we have to keep pushing forward.
In a scathing dissent, Justice Elena Kagan wrote, "Whatever this court may know about, it does not have a clue about climate change." Meantime, Professor Flatt notes Congress has been locked in stalemate over environmental policy for 3 decades. In the newsroom, Greg Groogan, Fox 26 News.